welcome or welcome back. I'm so happy you're here. My name is Gina and this is my little corner of YouTube where I share with you about what I have been up to regarding my knitting. So it has been quite a while since I last made a video. Life has just been very busy. It's my spring semester is in full swing and yeah, it's been a very busy one, and I am with you today because I'm on spring break. So I was, kind of planning on having this time to be able to finally get around to uploading a video because I have been knitting up a storm for sure. So I have actually 15 finished objects to share since the last time I have uploaded. And so I think that this video would turn into like an Avengers or Marvel movie like length, and so I decided that I am just gonna go ahead and preemptively plan for this to be a two-part video. So in this first video, I'm gonna be sharing projects that are more wintry, and then in part two of my update, we will be looking at more spring knits because I have been knitting some of both. Okay, and then one other thing I wanted to let you know, I don't know if you can see, it looks pretty bad on my viewfinder here. So last week I was actually going into my bathroom to get ready to go outside and take some finished object pictures. And I had left my shoes in the floor of the bathroom where I had taken them off when I came home from work, thinking I'm gonna come back and put these on in just a little while, so I'm not gonna put them in the closet and put them up. And I could hear my mother's voice even as I was choosing to leave those in the floor in that moment, going, oh, that's, you're gonna trip over those, or somebody's gonna trip over those. Anyway, and so you can probably already tell where the story is heading. I went back in to get ready to take those finished object pictures, and I was carrying a bunch of stuff when I went into the bathroom, and was trying to walk past where I had taken off my shoes and tripped over them and spun around in the air, dropped all of the things that I was carrying. And I think because I had my hands full, I didn't get my arms out in time, and I fell headfirst, full weight, into the corner of, we have a sunken tub, so it has like ceramic tiles on the outside. I fell into the corner of that. Right into my cheekbone. And last week, like when I initially did it, I had like a scab under my nose, and there was like a line running down my cheek, and then there was like a puncture wound where the corner had actually like stabbed in there. So now that just looks like an old, blemish or something, and the bruise has been slowly going down my face. And anyway, I was really swollen last week because it took a while for the bruise to show up, but one of my coworkers was like, did you have dental work done? Because your cheek looks really swollen. Anyway, I was like, no, it was not dental work. Although after I did it, I was really glad I hit it with my cheek instead of the front of my face, because I definitely think I would have broken some teeth if I had it. I think it was just, if you're gonna fall on your face and hit some part of your face into the corner, I think that was actually a pretty good place. So the muscle is really bruised in there, but I don't think anything, there was no structural damage. And so I have finally got mobility back in my face. I can like smile all the way without it hurting. And yeah, but since I had planned, like, I have to record this week, you guys are just gonna have to see me with this weird bruise on my face. And hopefully I can get some of my finished object photos this week, and just hide that a little bit with my hair or something. So anyway, enough about that. Yeah, so I have been doing lots and lots and lots of knitting. Been very stressed out, but the knitting is my way of coping with that. So lots of knitting, and I have just, even though I said in a video earlier in the year, like at the end of last year, I think I said something about like wanting to cut back on the number of tests because I have a queue 1,000,000 patterns long, and but I just keep signing up for those tests. So anyway, I have a number of test knits to share. So first of all is my Nordic Bloom by Caitlyn Hunter. So this pattern has been out for a while, and in fact, I think I had this one pretty much all the way done. In my last video, I just had not put on the buttons yet, and yeah, it took me way longer to get the buttons put on than it did for me to knit the thing. But buttons have been finally applied, and I have worn this a few times. So I talked about this like fairly in depth in my last or my next to last most recent video. And so I would recommend going back to that one because it has been, you know, a couple of months now, since like 3 months since I've knit this. So I don't remember all of those details about the knitting experience, but I can tell you that I made this size 3. I did not write down how many inches that was supposed to be, but I have a 40-inch upper bust and a 46-inch full bust, and I would have chosen my size according to my upper bust to try to get it to fit better through the shoulders. I made mine out of Knit Picks Upcycle Alpaca in the worsted weight. And that yarn is 34% wool, 33% alpaca, and 33% acrylic. Knit Picks came out with that, I want to say in like 2021 during the big sale, and they seem like it's been around ever since, even though it was sort of advertised as a one-off. So I'm not sure if that's just the original shipment that they got that they still haven't sold out of, or if they've been producing more of it. This pattern calls for a bulky weight yarn, which actually kept me from buying it for a while because I don't really work with bulky, and I have a little bit of bulky in stash, but not much. Just not my preferred knitting weight. And then I saw a podcaster had made it out of Wool of the Andes worsted, and she didn't hold it double or anything. She just made it out of the regular worsted. And I was like, well, maybe, maybe I can do this out of the Upcycle Alpaca, because this is in my opinion, a pretty heavy worsted weight, and definitely heavier than Wool of the Andes is. And so, so I just went for it, and I did not have any trouble at all matching gauge. So I was happy about that. I did add short row bust darts because I knew that with this vest, like the original version is quite cropped. And so I was like, if I have a very cropped vest, like that's really gonna show that it's hiking up in the front if I don't add those bust row or bust darts. And so I did go ahead and add that, and I'm happy about that. I did also just add a few rows to the back and the front after I finished with the patterning, because I did not want mine to be as cropped as what the original is. And so I added just a little bit, but I think my row gauge must have been off. Like it must have been longer than it was supposed to be, because the whole thing kind of did come out longer than I was expecting. I'm not upset about it or anything. Like it's fine. Because a little bit longer is probably more practical for me than as cropped as the original is. But yeah, I've been wearing this with a skirt. I'll either have Artie or we'll put up B-roll now showing it with the skirt, and that's kind of how I've been wearing it to school. And yeah, I'm happy with it. Nothing much to report except that, let's see, I did also I needle felted, I think I said this last time, but I needle felted the steek here. So I'll just pull it off and show you. So here's what my steek looks like. I did not do like crochet reinforcing. I just needle felted it. And then I came back and did like a zigzag stitch on my sewing machine just to try to shore it up a little bit. So it doesn't, needle felting doesn't look the nicest, but it is much easier in my opinion than doing the fiddly crochet steeking thing. So, all right. And the colors that I used in this were Lapis and Linen. I also did record my process of needle felting because I was thinking I might turn that into like a reel or something. So if you're interested in seeing that, let me know. Okay, next up we have my piece de resistance, the fine sweater. So let me bring this guy forward. Here's the back. Oh, there's the side. Back. And the other side. Okay, so let's get him turned around. All right. So this is a fine sweater, which I was very excited about in my last video. I had been working away on that. And I did finish it shortly after I recorded that video. So this is a pattern by Yu Jie. It is a free pattern and the designer isn't like a professional designer. They actually just created this sweater for a friend, and I think they had so many requests for the pattern that they wrote up their instructions, what they did. So they give you the picture, the chart, the color chart that they used, and then they give you some suggestions for how you could expand that or change your gauge if you wanted to change sizes. But basically it's one size because it is just a person's, just their personal project that they were so kind as to make available to anybody who wanted to make it. So I don't fault the designer for any issues, including the fact that there's no sizing. So I made mine out of Knit Picks Wool of the Andes worsted. And I used a size 8 needle, which I think was the one that was called for in the pattern. I don't usually say needle sizes because it really, gauge depends on you and your yarn and your technique. And so knowing the designer's needles, like that's just a starting spot. That's not saying this is what size needle you have to use. So this is intarsia, which means each of these colors is like a separate yarn bobbin that's on here. So there were so many different yarn bobbins, so many hanging, dangling yarns. And then once you've created the picture, then you have to go back and you have to add the edge stitching, or not edge stitching, some kind of, this is back stitch. Sorry, I'm not an embroiderer, so I don't remember all the terms, but yeah, this is just back stitch that you add in black to outline, define your pieces a little bit. You can see there are some places where you don't do the outlining, so for the flames. But yeah, let me show you guys what the inside of this looks like. Get this out of the way. This is interesting. You can still see the pattern on the inside, but it actually looks kind of cool, except for the places where I've like carried my yarn and stuff like that. But it's, I don't know, you could do some interesting stuff, I think, with intarsia, flipping it on the outside. Every once in a while you see a stranded knit piece that is meant to be worn with the floats on the outside, and yeah. You could kind of do that with intarsia, I guess. All right, I'm gonna put this back on. What to say about this? It was a massive undertaking. It was definitely fueled by a lot of rage and anger and feeling very helpless at the time, but it was really good for keeping me engaged. And you know, you can't doom scroll on your phone if you are working and if you're having to concentrate. So it was a ton of work. I'm glad I did it, and I will never do it again. I don't know. I will say this has definitely cured my fear of intarsia. Now I know I can do anything in intarsia if I can do this, because it was a lot of pieces. But yeah, I will say I don't find it super fun. Like I find stranded color work much more relaxing, and this was you know, having to stay engaged. I worked there was like a unicorn sweater I made last year, and it was in intarsia as well. And that one is worked in the round. I did prefer working it this way, even though obviously you have to purl. Actually, you have to purl when you work intarsia in the round as well. So yeah, like if you're gonna have to do all that purling anyway, then you might as well just work it flat. So this is seamed up, and I do not enjoy seaming, but I thought it looked pretty good. And to me, that side seam, like on this, actually looks better than the side seam that you get when you do intarsia in the round. So there was a reason that unicorn sweater like called for it to be worked in the round. It wasn't just because the designer didn't know this would be easier another way. But I'm just saying, I definitely prefer intarsia in the flat. So modifications, I ended up turning this into a vest, and not only was that because I was ready to be finished with the project, which is true, but the more important issue was that I did not have enough of the gray yarn to do the sleeves, because the top of the sleeves are, those are in gray. And so yeah, I would say if you're gonna make this, just know that the yardages are definitely under, I think, for most people. And for me, the area where it was under was the gray. I don't know, since I didn't end up working the sleeves, how much, if I would have run out of any of the other colors. I can tell you I got a whole lot of this yellow and orange left, which those are not colors that I normally work with. So yeah, I'll have to find something to do with that. Anyway, so let's see. Another modification I made was working a double folded collar, just because I really like double collars. So that of course did require extra gray yarn, but like that collar did not take up, you know, the top of the arm's worth. So I would not have had enough for sure to do the whole thing. So all of this together came out to about 1,012 yards of wool of the Andes. Of course, there's like a ton of, you use up extra, more than what you would think you would, just because of like the yarn tails and stuff. So let's see. So that was on my needles from January 17th to February the 3rd, which I feel like is actually like super, super fast for, at least for me, working in intarsia. And like I definitely devoted some weekends, and then we had some snow days in there where that was my major project. So yeah, I am glad I've done it. I have, like, this is obviously, I don't think, workwear. So I have, you know, sort of limited opportunity to wear that out of the house. So I have been wearing it like on the weekends, and I have gotten comments from people who are like, that, you know, that's awesome. And when I told one man who had complimented me that I had made it myself, as you do, right? Like knitters, we live for that. The opportunity to say that, he was like, "Oh, are you going to sell them?" And I was like, no, no, definitely not ever selling that piece, or making another one again for anybody. So, all right. So I have several of these projects that are going to be this way. I don't have this anymore. This is the Rockhound Hat. I'll be putting up a picture up in the corner there. So this is a test knit, or was a test knit for Wool and Pine Designs. I made it out of Neighborhood Fiber Company's Organic Studio DK. And the colorway on that was Waverly. It's this really pretty like plum color. And I knit the size adult small. and I will say mine did not come out to the small measurements. So they're like, I kind of checked out on the test like once I had finished it, but my recollection is that there were many of us whose hats were much longer than what we had planned for, and when we like blocked them, they got a lot bigger than what they were supposed to in the schematic. And so the wool and pine gals they went back and altered the pattern, like where you start on that, because they were using the charts from their Rockhound series. There's a Rockhound vest, which was the first one. I have knitted that, loved that. And now there's a Rockhound pullover hat, and I believe there is going to be, am I making this up? A Rockhound tee? Rockhound cardigan? I don't know. I feel like there's another one in the series. But so this is the chart. The same chart that's used in all of those Rockhound garments. And yeah, so they altered like the starting spot on that and maybe the number of repeats to address the issue that people were having it come out to all these different sizes. The thing that's kind of neat about this hat is that you can wear it, like they created it to be worn 3 different ways. So you can wear it like full length, like with the brim turned down, and that will make it like really long and slouchy. I was not able to do that with mine because it was just so long. Like it would have just been like empty cap hanging down, not sticking up cutely, but just like flopped over because it was so long. So you're supposed to be able to wear it that way, or you can like turn the brim up really far and make it more like a fisherman beanie, I think is what they said, or you can do like a half full flip of your brim. And I think they called that the pixie style, where there was a little bit of slouch, but not as much. So I do think it is a very versatile pattern. I thought that was really neat that you can get 3 really different looks. Mine, just because it was made to the original pattern, was too long to do the, like you could get the slouchy look, but you had to still turn your brim up to keep that slouchy look, and you couldn't, you would lose a lot of the pattern if you wanted the beanie look, because you just had to turn it like so many times. Anyway, but I sent mine off to a friend who has big curly hair, and she was like, it's perfect. So I'm really glad that, yeah, that worked out. It found a good home with somebody who it was just fine for. Like, she had been interested in some of my other hats before, but she was always like, you know, I got this curly hair, I don't think I can fit it under there. So this was really good. So I do recommend that hat, and it would be a good one to try if you are interested in the Rockhound, you know, any of their Rockhound garment series, but you don't want to commit to trying to doing like a vest or, you know, one of the smaller pieces. This is a perfect place to try out the pattern and see if you like it before you commit to a full garment. Okay, next up is another one that I don't have anymore, so it will be up here on the screen, and that is the Gridlines hat. This was another test, so this one actually hasn't released yet, but I just wanted to put it in the section of the video because it's definitely a more wintry hat. It is made with bulky weight yarn, and I used some Madeline Tosh Home, which is, I guess, a discontinued yarn at this point. It was bulky weight, and I actually won it in the indie gift along a few years ago. So it was just this one random skein you know, that I had and wasn't sure what to do with, because like I said earlier, I don't really work in bulky very much. And so when I saw this test opportunity come up, I was like, yes, this would be the perfect time to get rid of that skein. That sounds bad. Get it out of my stash. Give it a purpose. And so I paired it with another bulky weight like singles yarn that I think I got it thrifting at some point, and I don't know the name on that one, but I just like went by wraps per inch, and I could tell it was wool, and so I put those two together for a very neutrals hat, and This is, so, Briana likes to use Spin Cycle, as, you know, who doesn't like Spin Cycle? And she's always trying to figure out ways to use up like all of those scraps. And so this was meant to be used with a Spin Cycle yarn, because it just uses a little bit of the contrast, and it's not color work. It is mosaic, I guess, like you're just slipping stitches, is how you create the pattern. And so there were some really pretty ones in the test with people who did use like the recommended yarn. I'm just trying to not spend money on yarn, and so I was not going to go buy yarn for this one. I'm trying to use up my stash. I used needle sizes US 9 and 7, and I will say the gauge on this like almost killed me trying to get that gauge, because that Madelinetosh is a bulky weight, and like it's just heavy. It was like, I think the grist on it is high, like it just felt heavy, and working that on a 7, it was rough on my hands. And so this hat like really just takes a few hours to make, but I did have to sort of break it up over a couple of days, just because I couldn't work on it for very long at one time because it was hurting my hands. And I suspect the issue probably is that if you're using the Spin Cycle, I have never used their, whatever their bulky weight is, but I do know that their sport weight, dyed in the wool, is, I would say, more like a fingering weight. So I suspect that their bulky is also like not really a true bulky by anybody else's standards. So I bet my Madtosh home was a lot heavier than the Spin Cycle. And so like I was just having to like go down a needle size to get that gauge, where other people were able to work at a more at a gauge that was better for that yarn that they were using. But I posted that on my social media, and I had a friend who wanted it, so it has already gone off to its happy home. And in fact, she liked it so much she asked for another one for her husband. So we'll see if I get around to doing that or not. I don't have any more. I was like, sorry, that was, you know, not going to be in the same yarn if I made it. So we'll see. I would have to buy yarn to do that, so I don't know if I will. But if you like this one, it is releasing on March the 24th. And yeah, I highly do recommend the pattern. Like it was super easy, except for the yarn hurting my hand. And that was I think a me and my specific yarn problem. So yeah, it was very fast and made a very squishy, very warm fabric. All right, next up, yet another one that I don't have with me, so look at the screen to see this one. This is the Reynard and Vixen Mitten, which was a pattern I tested for Sarah Kelly of Grey Owl Knits. And I used Knit Picks palette in Salsa Heather and Oregon Coast Heather, which is sorry, I'm looking out my window and there's a really pretty blue jay that just landed on the tree. I've talked before about that that colorway, but it's just a really pretty, it has like a ton of depth. It has a lot of colors in it, even though like sort of on the screen from far away, it reads as just sort of a basic beige taupe kind of color. There's a lot more going on. I thought this pattern was super duper cute. It was not a super difficult, like in terms of color work, you know, often those patterns where a picture is being created and it's not small geometric shapes, like those are harder, right? Because they're not symmetrical. So you can't just memorize a line and work the same thing over and over. Like anytime you're working the front of that mitten, it's always going to be, you have to look at the line, each line, and you have to kind of like stare at it, you know, all the way across, checking what you're doing. So those are always more challenging. Some are more challenging than others. I did not find this particular pattern to be super difficult. So yeah, it was not too hard. And it has an absolutely adorable thumb detail. So I'll be putting a picture of the thumb up here. Very, very cute. The thumb was differently placed. So it wasn't like, instead of coming like out, sticking out the side of the thumb, it's more like that, I think. And yeah, it was just set up a little bit differently. So that was kind of interesting. I haven't, if I've worked one of those before, I don't remember it. But I couldn't tell, you know, that it felt worse or better. It was just different, but I was able to, you know, full range of motion, either direction. I ended up sending those off, because I made the medium size, which are like, if I was going to keep them for myself, I would make the large size. So yeah, I made the medium and, sold those off to a friend who lives in, a village that has fox in the, like, Fox Valley or something in the name. And so she's now got fox mittens to wear while she's out walking around. So that's perfect. I meant to grab these before I started filming, but I forgot about it. I heard about, so I had heard of like I think it's Addy, like flexi flips, those needles that are intended to take the place of DPNs. Like you only need 3 of them. And instead of being like a straight, you know, double pointed needle, it's needle on each end, and then like there's this flexible little cable in the middle, and they come in sets of 3 because you only need 3 of them to work in the round instead of, you know, 4 or more DPNs. And I was just curious to try those out because the person who was recommending them said that she got them on Amazon for like under $10, and so I went and I was like, yeah, they are there. So for $8, I will try those out because I've been curious about them ever since I heard about the flexi flips, but you know, I did not want to invest the $30 or whatever into, you know, one size of essentially DPNs when I hardly ever use DPNs. So, but I just want to try them out. And so I tried that. They came, after I had already knitted one mitten. And so I just tried them out on the thumb because that's one of the more annoying places to work magic loop. I guess I should say that I use magic loop for everything. So I knit those, mittens on, I think Haya size, 0, really long circular needles. And, I really like I just got those Hayas, a couple of months ago, because I could not find my size 0s, which did of course turn up after I had ordered the other ones. But the Hayas are nice and sharp, and the red cord on them is super flexible. So they are really nice for working in the magic loop. So I tried out these like off-brand knockoff flexi flips, and I did not love them. I don't love working on DPNs, like, period. And I, you know, hardly ever use them. Basically when I make gnomes, I think is about the only time I pull out my DPNs these days. When I first started knitting socks, like, I actually learned on DPNs, and so I have used them. I can use them, but since I don't use them often, I'm a lot more likely to get laddering with DPNs versus magic loop, and I think that's just a practice thing. So that was interesting. But what was super interesting to me about it was I realized after I had knitted the thumb, I was like, this thumb is kind of short. And usually, I find Sarah's thumb patterns to be a little tall. But my row gauge is always off. My row gauge is always longer than hers is. And so, yeah, so when I'm doing the thumbs, like, often I will cut out like a repeat or something in order to make them, you know, a little bit closer to thumb size. But I did not have that problem with this. And so I measured my gauge, and yeah, my row gauge was so much smaller, tighter, on those like fake flexi flips. So that was really interesting. And I think that Sarah does knit her mittens on DPN. So like maybe that's why our row gauges are so different. So I just thought that was really interesting. Not that I'm planning to knit the whole thing with those flexi flips, although I guess I could, but it's just not as enjoyable an experience for me. Okay, and then yet another set of items that I no longer have. I told you guys, like, I had knit one Melt the Ice hat the last time I recorded, and So the friend who had ordered one that I had knit the one for at that time, she actually came back and ordered another one and then another one. So I ended up knitting her 3 Melt the Ice hats. Every one of them a little bit different, which I was like, is this okay with you? Do you want me to reknit this? Cause like I knit the first one to pattern of the original Melt the Ice hat pattern, and it was huge. Enormous. And so on the next one, I used the exact same yarn, but sized down, like cut down the number of stitches. I think I went down to like 92 stitches, which is less than, I didn't go back to the pattern and look and see, sorry, before I started recording how many the original pattern calls for, but it's more than 92. I went down to 92 and it was still really big. And then when she asked for a third one, I was like, well, I don't have that color yarn anymore. All I've got now is this really like, so the original ones were Knit Picks Brava in the color wine. And the only other red yarn I had, was Knit Picks Brava bulky weight, in the color red. So it's like very primary, Crayola red color. And she was fine with that. So on that third one, I actually used a different hat. I used one of the free patterns, which I'm not really sure, I'm not going to get into the whole debate, but after the original Melt the Ice hat came out, then there were like several patterns that cropped up that were basically, the same type of thing. They were modeled on those original Norwegian pointy hats. And they were free, and, they're just, I think the idea was that you could make them, to be part of the resistance, but like part of the original idea was that like you're making a donation to the yarn shop for them to pass on to those organizations in Minneapolis. So whatever, I bought the original one, and so like I didn't feel any guilt at all about using one of the free patterns just to see what they had done differently. And I do think that the Red Hat of Resistance, like I did like the effect that I got better following it, although I still did not work it completely to pattern. I added some extra spaces in there so that my hat would get a little bit taller. I did like the tassel that they included on that one versus the original Melt the Ice hat. I thought the tassel was cute. Anyway, so yeah, I knit those up. They all 3, same idea, but 3 different executions of it, and sent those off to my friend. And from what she sent me, we sent together $45 to a mutual aid organization in Minneapolis. So it was nice to, just to feel like in that moment of helplessness that I was contributing in a very small way to, help the people who had been impacted by that. So yeah, so I'm glad though that I'm through knitting that pattern. I'm over it. My sister had asked for one, and I was like, well, I don't care as much about letting my sister down. So I'll see her this weekend and ask how much she really wanted that or not. Okay. And then my last 2 projects I do actually have, so that's good. So this one, for something completely different, these are a pair of knitted knockers. And if you haven't heard of Knitted Knockers before, it is a charitable organization that provides just soft knitted or crocheted prosthetics for people who have, experienced mastectomies or other tissue loss, and would like to, replace that breast tissue in their bras, with these. And yeah, so Knit Picks Shine had just been approved to be used by the Knitted Knockers organization, because they don't want you just sending anything. Like they have a very specific set of yarns that have been approved that you can use, and they have all sorts of different yarns. Like you don't have to use, like it doesn't have to be all 100% cotton or whatever, but they don't want you using, they're not going to take your wool knitted knockers. So so these are made out of Shine, which is a bamboo cotton blend. And sorry, I forgot to write down. I have to look it up and write down what exactly it is, but it is a very, very soft, kind of silky feeling yarn. So I can see how this would be not, you know, non-irritating to somebody's very sensitive skin. So the pattern is pretty self-explanatory. Knitted Knockers provides that pattern for free, and they have it, you know, if you can't figure out on your own how to change like magic loop versus DPNs or whatever, they do have it written up multiple different ways. And I think they may even have like straight, you know, directions for straights and then sewn together. I'm always going to knit in the round when I can. So yeah, these are sort of proof of concept. This is my first attempt, and they do specify, like they will take any color that you send them, but they do specify that they get most requests for flesh toned colors. So, you know, neutrals, and I do not have any of that. I just happen to have this on hand. This is very deep stash. So I actually, when I was putting it in Ravelry, I noticed when this yarn is from. It's from 2015. So this was from, you know, a very early cardigan that I attempted multiple times. I finally did make it, but I'm not sure if it's ever gotten worn. I don't even know where it is. I need to dig around in my closet and see if I can find it, because I remember I did a really stretchy bind off on the button band, and that had made it wavy because I was just a baby knitter and didn't know that you shouldn't do Jenny's surprisingly stretchy bind off. It's great for socks, but you don't necessarily want that on your button band. Anyway, so I need to redo the button band, but at this point, like I probably can't wear that anymore because I have gained weight since then. So, all that to say, this was very deep stash from 2015. So some of my very first Knit Picks purchases. And yeah, so these were proof of concept. I probably will, you know, make another couple of pairs and then send those all at once. And you can send them stuffed or unstuffed. I'm probably gonna de-stuff these and just leave the opening and let them stuff them when they're there, because I suspect it will be cheaper to ship it if they're not fully inflated. So yeah, so that's kind of cool. I've heard a lot about knitted knockers, but I have never actually made any. Okay, and then my final finished object for this video, these are the Home Again mittens. So this is the second iteration of, you may remember if you watched the last video, I had made a pair of these in a different color, and I, sold them off very quickly to a friend who, likes hobbits, and another friend, one of my longtime mentors, asked if she could commission a pair, and I was like, of course, I can't say no to her. And she picked the colors of these, and I think she just did an amazing job. They go so well. So this is Shire Heather is the dark green, and the light green is green tea heather. And I think the pattern looks really, really good in this tonal version. And of course, very hobbity, Shire Heather. Could there be a more hobbity color? No. So let's see. What do I want to say about these? I knit the size small. I did not have a full skein of the Shire Heather. And so we did not do the optional there's like a cuff that can fold up or fold down. And it was kind of funny because my friend originally was like, oh, I don't want that. And I was like, well, you can fold it up. So, you know, if I were doing the mittens for me, I would definitely want it because I think it's very functional. And I think she was just didn't like the look of it. And it's like, well, you're not going to see it, right? If you don't want to see it, because you can fold it up into your cuff and then your wrist will be nice and warm. But we didn't have enough yarn. And so she's like, just leave it off because I didn't want it anyway. So that worked out. I had just enough of the Shire heather and plenty of the green tea heather because it actually takes less of that one. The light color is actually considered your main color, I guess, because you want the contrast color to pop, but you use more of the contrast color. So yeah, not much to say about these, except she commissioned those from me like at the end of January, whenever I had just finished the other ones, and I told her yes, and then I just like did not work on them. It reminded me why I don't like to do commissions, because as soon as something becomes, I have to do this, like I need to get this done, then I don't want to work on it, and it is not bringing me joy. So, but I did want to make them for her. And so that's special. And then she also wants a hat. And so, I have the Shire heather, was sold out on Nitpicks. And so we were just going to have to wait and see if that like showed back up. But a kind, person on the Nitpicks lovers board on Ravelry, had seen that I was trying to like figure out what I could do, whether I should just wait for palette to come back in, or if there was another yarn that would be a close match. And she was like, I have two of the Shire heathers that I'm not going to use, so she's going to send those to me, and I will hold those double to make my friend a hat that matches these. It's not going to be color work or anything. She actually likes the melt the hat, like that look. She said that it looks dwarvish to her. So like I said, she's a very huge Lord of the Rings fan. And so I will not be using the Melt the Ice pattern, since I have already said like I didn't actually like the pattern. So if you have any suggestions for, I guess, like the pointy hat style that are just better shaped and better written, let me know. Otherwise I will just browse through Ravelry and find something, or I guess I can make my own at this point, having knitted that other one a million times. Yeah, okay. And then I didn't tell you what I'm wearing. So this is my Lily Kate France Calm Down Cardi, which I made in December, finished in January, and I think I had it hanging on a mannequin, but I didn't actually show it to you. You can maybe tell one of the problems that I need to go back and fix, which is that my buttonholes are too big for my buttons, and so my buttons are constantly coming undone, which drives me absolutely insane. So I need to just take some sewing thread and stitch those down a little bit to close them up. But yeah, love it otherwise. Okay, so that's the end of my finished objects. I'm going to show you my work in progress that is wintry, because I have some other works in progress that will be in the next video that are spring. But this one is most definitely not, and that is, oops, inside out here, my book club Cardi, which I'm knitting in Knit Picks Woodland Tweed. And if you think, well, that doesn't really look like it's any different than it was last time, you are correct. This one has just not been getting any love whatsoever. I've done maybe 7 or 8 rows since it was joined in the round. The rows are just really, really long now, because it's the full, circumference of the thing, and it does require paying attention, right? Because it's cabled. Anyway, so I've not been into it. Hopefully the mood will strike me again, because I do think that the whole thing is very cute. So I just need to force myself to work on it. Okay, so next the next video, I will be showing you a ton of more knits. Like I said, I had 15 total objects, but nobody wants to watch all of those. So the next video will be more spring stuff. And I will also show you my whips, which I'm super excited about. So I think that is everything for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know what you are working on. I love to get comments from people, and just see, yeah, what you're interested in, what you're up to. But yeah, thank you so much for choosing to spend some of your time with me today. I hope that you have been knitting on something that's bringing you joy. Bye.